A start to the 2025 Formula One season that fell short of expectations clearly led the Ferrari team, led by technical director Loic Serra, to reconsider their development plans right from the beginning. The Australian Grand Prix first, China next, and finally the Japan Grand Prix weekend at the Suzuka circuit all highlighted the problems with which this SF-25 single-seater was born. Lewis Hamilton confirmed after the qualifying session in Suzuka that they couldn't run with the heights they would have liked, which marked the final verdict regarding the limitations hindering Ferrari's true potential. In the first 3 races, the car remained mostly the same in terms of aerodynamic mapping, but despite this, it displayed some dynamics that were still unclear to Frederic Vasseur's team. The British driver also mentioned that they needed to solve the balance issues affecting them, and that if they made the most of the car, he believed there was still potential to extract. The issues with a structurally too soft rear had already come to light during the pre-season testing session, and Charles Leclerc had already spoken about it with people close to him. These problems became fully evident at the Albert Park circuit in Melbourne. In China, the Ferrari engineers and technicians decided to take a risk with the setup at the cost of a disqualification for Lewis Hamilton due to wear on his skid block. Japan was the Grand Prix of awareness. The SF-25 is severely limited by the heights factor, with about 3 millimeters of extra height, as the 2025 F1 car showed an overall potential, placing it only as the 4th strongest on the grid last weekend. A 2 negative result, confirming that the red car has lost about 3 to 4 tenths to McLaren over just one winter. The prancing horse leaves Suzuka with many doubts and few certainties. The performance continues to disappoint, despite what was, on paper, the best weekend of the season. 4th and 7th places are not enough to aim for the Formula One title, the objective Maranello had declared at the start of the championship. And while some are beginning to believe the car was fundamentally flawed in the design phase at the factory, questions about the future are being raised. Racing with setups that cripple the SF-25 by about 20 points of downforce contributes significantly to the technical gap it faces compared to the current reference set by the McLaren MCL-39 single-seater. While awaiting the work at Maranello to bear fruit with the arrival of specific fixes, it is clear that the car has issues that are not easy to solve immediately. A technical reaction is urgent, and Ferrari is determined to change things in Bahrain. But will the new parts limit the SF-25's flaws? The first evolutionary step to implement on the red car, under the decision-making of Loic Serra, will arrive at the 5.412-kilometer Bahrain International Circuit in Sakhir next weekend, a track with many references thanks to the pre-season testing session, which took place at the end of February. The technical pursuit of McLaren does not seem to be an impossible task, though it won't be as quick as one might think, or hope. The arrival of new parts for the 4th race is already in itself the concentration of components planned for the subsequent stages. It was never Ferrari's plan to bring new parts to Suzuka, both for logistical reasons and decisions made by the team, although the team knew beforehand that they had to race with defensive strategies. For Bahrain, the SF-25 will be equipped, as anticipated, with a first revision of the floor as a whole. The areas of intervention were the key ones, delicate to handle as they could disrupt some variables in the car's behavior. However, given the state of affairs, the car needed a reshuffling of downforce so that the changes could make the car more predictable. Global updates were made to the Venturi channels and the diffuser, revised as a whole. This is a major upgrade purely aimed at performance and stability at peak downforce, studied in the wind tunnel over the winter and decided upon at the start of the 2025 Formula One season. It is clear that the balance issues of the SF-25, due to a rear end that always struggles to follow a front end, which, by design, is very pointy, may not be fully solved in Bahrain. With these Formula One cars, we have often seen how an aerodynamic package can deliver less than expected based on factory data, but there have also been cases where a package outperformed expectations. There is, however, confidence that the SF-25's platform should partially benefit from the new parts in order to achieve more balance and allow for more consistent downforce. On this aspect, cautious optimism is emerging from Maranello, but not just a revised floor will be ready for Bahrain, as Ferrari's updates will also focus on the rear end. And this is no coincidence. The shopping list for Sakhir is expected to see the SF-25 with key modifications around the rear, compared to the major aerodynamic update to the floor. It is a fairly complete package, aimed at concentrating the first step in preparation for further technical improvements already in the works. The action plan for the weekend is still being decided, with Lewis Hamilton expected to try the new parts on the SF-25, while the rookie Dino Beganovic, who will replace Charles Leclerc in the first free practice session, should run with the SF-25 featuring the old floor for a direct comparison. Other updates will focus entirely on the rear area, including changes to the rear wing central pylon and a new brake duct. The second evolutionary step, perhaps the most important, has not yet been decided, and this leaves room for thought. Technical Director Loic Serra will decide after the Bahrain Grand Prix weekend how to proceed with this, with an approach that might see more gradual and consistent updates compared to the more aggressive decisions of the past, as it was under the leadership of Italian aerodynamicist and former technical director Enrico Cardile. A bigger package that the aerodynamic department under Diego Tondi is working on has not yet been officially scheduled for debut. The current situation within the Italian team sees other major changes under deliberation, which at the moment excludes any introduction in Miami in favor of subsequent races in May. The French technical director is currently dividing his work between the SF-25 developments and the 2026 Formula One project, but information clearly indicates that the development of the SF-25 remains a priority, at least until next month, which will be crucial for continuing to allocate resources to the development of the current car. Salvaging the prospects for the 2025 Formula One Championship remains the priority for now, with effects that will become visible on track in the coming weeks. The first seasonal updates are therefore expected in Bahrain, and Ferrari is aware that it needs to improve everywhere, as team principal Frederic Vasseur emphasized at the end of the Japanese Grand Prix last Sunday. The French manager, who has been in charge of the Italian side since the 2023 Formula One season, is in a rather complex position, having to instill hope and confidence in both the team and the fans after a 2025 start that is decidedly below expectations. The French manager was quoted explaining that progress had been made compared to the previous week, particularly on the operational side, and that the team needed to build on this. This referred to the setup that Charles Leclerc had found at the Suzuka circuit, which allowed the Monegasque driver to establish a balanced base for the upcoming races, although it had not resulted in a performance breakthrough for the SF-25 single-seater. Frederic Vasseur reportedly acknowledged the current difficult situation at Ferrari in this start of the championship, but at the same time, he made it clear that Ferrari does not intend to wave the white flag. Ahead of the Bahrain Grand Prix, the French team principal was quoted stating that improvement was needed everywhere, and that, while the start of the season had not been ideal, there was still a long way to go with 21 races remaining.